Well, hello there, beautiful internet, and you super creatures of the beyond. Missed you guys. Look what I got here for you. This is a pickup disc, the old school type of vinyl or vinyl. I don't know exactly how it's pronounced. Anyway, so what we're going to do with this today, we're going to animate it. And we're going to animate it directly into Inkscape, although the animation will not perform in Inkscape, obviously. But I have done some very interesting experiments with this, and I'm really loving it. Like a lot. So, let me show you some of the experiments that I have done prior to this, and then we'll explore this part. So this is my first attempt, and it looks decent, but as we zoom in, we can see there's problems with the jaggedness of the edge, and then I also have a bigger one, and we can see it clearly better here that something is jagged. And this is because these are GIFs. And GIFs have the notoriety of not handling opacity really well. So in the first case, this one actually has a white background, but it's not very convenient. Because if you would want to turn the whole element, the background would turn with it. So in this case, I only opted to turn the center, which actually looks much better than turning the whole disk. But yeah, that's a big inconvenience. So there are many ways to create GIFs. There are some online tools, but unfortunately with the online tools is that they compress the texture too much. And instead of getting this nice gradient here, for example, you will see that it looks very, I don't know, flat. It creates layers of colors instead of doing this beautiful gradient. Um, yeah, let me see. Can I find that tool again? Uh, so it's basically PNG to, actually it's an APNG, which stands for animated PNG. And I use something to convert to APNG. Yeah, an APNG maker. Here we go. So basically how this works is that you drop all of your files over here. And just to showcase, what I've done is that I've taken my SVG here and I have turned this center at 15 degrees in increments. Eventually I just deleted that part because I found a much better way to do it, but I've created these versions over here. So they basically rotate up to, I don't know, where is it? 24 frames. So this is the base and this is the last rotor. Yeah. So 24 frames. And basically, if I would to take these 24 frames and put them inside here, I can make an APNG, and this cat is going to dance for us until everything is done. He's so chubby. We have to have a bit of patience. There we go. But obviously it's very choppy, and this is because we need to reduce the delay. So if I'm gonna reduce it to 1, it's going to reconfigure it or regenerate it, and it looks a bit better, but it's still choppy. So in order to solve this, we're gonna go to speed, and I'm gonna increase this by 50% or 5 times actually, sorry. And now you see, way better. and then you can convert it to anything you need. GIF, WebP, MP4, blah 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 blah. You even have more tools. This is a free website, by the way. Really cool things happening on this website, and you can do all sorts of interesting things. But the problem is that the moment right now it looks okay, but if I'm gonna go to GIF, convert to GIF, you can already see the jagged edges and the flickering. It's there, and unfortunately there is no way to circumvent this. Plus the edges look a little bit off, as I said. Well, this is the limitation of this website, and it has some encoders on the server, so they're using that, and obviously they need to reduce compression, because if you're working with a lot of files, and when it comes to online environment you have a limited bandwidth, you have to reduce that. So I understand. So another way to solve this is to use, well, you could also use GIMP, but I haven't tested it for GIMP, but I used Krita, and I think we've done something similar in Krita before. So this is one of those times when I really love Krita. I don't hate Krita, it's just difficult to adapt to it for other things. So basically, if I'm gonna go into a new file, and yeah, let's say 200 by 200, this is the size that I want. Now in here, I can go and select import animation frames. I don't know if I can drag them, no? Okay, so I've imported them here. Now it's gonna start with step 1, 24 FPS. We're gonna go OK. And as you can see, they're all stacked on top of one another. And here they are displaying. Now, in order for us to export it as a GIF, we're gonna go to render animation. And here, very importantly, you leave 24 FPS there, but here you type how many files you have, how many frames. Actually, how many images, sorry. So in this case, it's gonna be 24, and it's gonna generate it for me. Wherever I have set it. Let me see. Oh, and one more important thing, you really need this MPEG. So I don't think it comes with Krita by default. I think I've downloaded this quite a bit ago. Let me see. Yeah, you have to go here to this site and download it from here. You put it, well, I put it where Krita is basically. So you'll have to identify where that is, and then it will generate. This is an encoder or a codec, and it's open source, by the way. Okay, so if I would to go where I've placed this, it generated over here. Easy peasy, I've generated it twice, whatever. So that's another way to do it. But this requires you to do a lot of repeating work and create those files one by one by one by one, working in multiple software and things like that, you know? And it's a chore. And I like to be lazy. So let me show you a much better way of doing this. So right here, I have created two global layers, which is vinyl center and vinyl outer. The vinyl outer is this side, and obviously the center is here. Now, the reason I did it this way, it's because Inkscape is very peculiar on how it handles animation. And this relates... well, it's a bit complicated to explain, but trust me, it works like this. So let's have a look of what we have done with this too. Here, you will see that there is quite a mess here. And unfortunately, I don't know how to fix this permanently. I know how to fix it temporarily until you close the file, I mean Inkscape. This is a bit of a mess here, but it's actually pretty cool. So let me explain. Right now we have the global layers over here. And we know they're global layers because they have this group mode layer. Inside, you see, they look the same, GID and blah, 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 blah. But the moment you look inside the nested GID, you don't have this, this attribute with this tag. So yeah, these are the global ones that we need to handle. And I have given them IDs. And then I have created in here a style called spin initially. But then you would ask, what the heck are these remnants over here? Well, this is because the style is kind of janky. So it kind of puts everything like this. It generates everything into one particular line. And yeah, I don't know how to fix it permanently, as I said. And also, I have no idea why it's throwing everything left and right and so on. This should look different, and I'll show you how I formatted my text. So this is the first part of the text, of the code. And then in order to avoid this mess over here, I would create a new node for this style, a node text, and I would copy the second part of the code, like so. And that looks superb, in my opinion. It's much more easier to understand and read. But as I said, the moment you close Inkscape, say au revoir to how you formatted the text over here. Even and I put them on separate nodes is because the moment I try to put it on the same node, I'm gonna get the same issue here. Although you can leave it as this, whatever. And also, I don't know, it's really weird what's happening. So for now, let's just keep it like so. Probably doesn't like this type of formatting with keyframes. These are CSS. This is a CSS code syntax, so it's very specific to CSS. It has nothing to do with the SVG itself. But let me explain to you what this basically does. So this creates keyframes. In a way, it's like Krita. It's saying where the keyframe is starting on 0 and where it ends. In this case, I'm gonna say 100%. But you can format this in many other ways. So what I'm telling it is, I'm giving this keyframe a name, in this case rotating. I'm starting at 0%, and I'm saying I want a transformation action that rotates from 0 degrees, and when it reaches 100%, it rotates to 360 degrees, so it does a full rotation. Perfect. Now, this alone is not enough to do the animation. We need to import these keyframes into this into our element. But in this case, I created a style, a class called spin, and I have associated it with our group here, our global group, yeah, or global layer. Oh my god, my brain. So for the center, we can see here that it refers the class spin, which is here. Although I added it much easier through this interface. So it looks at spin, and let's see what happens in spin. So in spin we have quite a few lines of code, but in actuality this can be simplified if we wanted to, but I want it to be as clear as possible of what each little thing means. So basically this is calling the keyframe, which is rotating, the animation keyframe. Then I'm telling it how much the duration should be, in this case 2 seconds. Now I'm saying I want it to rotate infinitely, and I want it to have a fluid animation, a linear one, and I'll explain what this means afterwards. And then this alternate is just an experiment of mine just to see how it looks back and forth. And the transformation origin is very, very important, because basically if you don't specify this, it will try to put the center, the origin of the object, all the way to the corner in 0, 0. So in this case, I'm saying look at the whole surface, because one thing to notice is that the window, and let me make it even clearer, is set 200 by 200 pixels, exactly as the size of this circle. And it does not look at the origin of the object, it looks at the origin of the page. In this case, it's gonna be 0, 0 in this corner. So we have to halve that to the center, which is 50%. But yeah, whatever. This is just a little workaround to fix this. If you let it there in the corner, it's going to rotate like so, 360. It's gonna look weird. Anyway, so with this code alone, our SVG is functional and it's animated. And let me show you guys how that works. So if I'm going to be here, and let me go and take, so I'm basically taking this and pulling it directly into the browser. And there you go. The center, only the center is moving, but it's moving back and forth. And let's do some experiments here. So in order to stop this alternation of back and forth, I'm gonna remove this line and I'm gonna save. Let's go back to our browser, refresh. Now it's going 360 non-stop in a loop. If I want this to not be infinite, I want to iterate the count maybe 2 times, let's say. I'm going to refresh, and it should go 2 times in 360, and then it should stop. See? Bam. Easy peasy. Let's undo that. Now if I want this to be 12 seconds, for example, it's going to calculate the speed based on the time that I have inputted there. So in this case, it's going much, much slower. Another thing that we can do, let's put it back to 2 seconds. We can put this linear, we can put it to ease out. Oops. And if I'm gonna refresh it, you see it's slowing down at the end, but then it's going to hop in like that. If I want to make it a bit more easier, then I'm gonna put ease in and out, so it doesn't have this particular stop. So now it's going like this. Oh, it's actually does, but I forgot. Well, maybe you should do just ease. Let's see. No, it reacts the same. Well, whatever. These are just small variations of the ease. So yeah, we want it linear, and as I said, if we're not specifying the transform, so if I remove this, you see, well, in this case it's only shifting the center because I didn't apply it to the outer edge. And you can kind of see that it tries to compensate for that, but this is, I think, from the browser generated those artifacts over there. So yeah, we want this line to be there, it's very important. So let's refresh. Now that looks fantastic. So we didn't do anything crazy. We didn't add anything outside of Inkscape. We just wrote all the code inside. And that's all nice and cute and fantastic. And now it looks organized and nice, but the moment I close this, you're gonna have that splatter over there. But I'm not entirely sure why he does this, but it still works. Even if I close it, it's still going to work, even if it meshes up the generated part. Now, right now we inputted the SVG directly, but as I have showed you guys, SVG can be used inside a web page. In this case, a HTML, let's say. So let's create a HTML. Just a moment. So I have everything set up in the background. Okay, so let's say we're going to create a page, index.htm, because I'm too lazy to write the L. And we're going to import it into our browser. And I'm not gonna write all the code. I'm just going to simplify things. So let's edit this. And let's say that, well, I have some code set on the side from a previous project of mine, so I just don't have to type it from top to bottom. So we will want a little element here called div-id loading and wrap inside an image called loading image. I'm gonna just give it this ID. I'm going to give it the source and an alternative in case the image doesn't load. Easy peasy. So we're calling record loader, which is in our case the SVG. But first let's test it with the GIF. Let's see if it works with the GIF. So if I'm gonna refresh, we see it's over here, but we see the jaggedness. Let's try the small one. This one looks a little bit more decent, but again, it's small. If I'm gonna try to maybe push the height of this, sorry, like this, to 200, we're gonna have an issue here. We're gonna see it's very pixelated, which sucks. We don't want that. So a way to solve this is to call the SVG. So the SVG, oh, sorry. You see? It's showing loading because I have written it wrong here. So this is not the correct naming. It should be without the small. So we're getting the alternative reference. So now we have this. Now this looks much more smoother. And we don't have the jagged lines. And if I want to increase the height to 400, it's pixels, but it doesn't reference that. Bam. We see that it maintains its quality since it's SVG. Now let's put this to 1000. But the bigger it is, obviously the center it's going to turn slower because it's going in 15 degrees increments. So clearly this is how it's gonna look, unless I zoom out. So yeah, let's return to the normal zoom. Anyway, oh, it's messing up. So let's remove the height altogether. We're just gonna leave it at the normal height, 200 by 200. So right now, this one has its CSS animation embedded within itself. So we don't need to write anything. So I just clearly imported it. I don't even need this div or anything like that. I can just simplify this whole thing like this. if I want to showcase it. It's gonna work all the same. See? So let's redo it like this. Actually, I don't even think you need this anymore, but whatever. Let's leave it there because this doesn't have a closing tag, whatever. So now let's create actually an interesting thing. Let's make a preloader with this. Preloader means that when your page is loading the content, it's going to take a bit of time to load all the elements. Obviously, we're not having anything particular aside from this image, but maybe you have like lots of text and blah blah blah. So maybe the page takes a second or two to load. And in that 1 or 2 seconds, we can create a preloader on top of the page to not show that slow loading of the page as it goes, or whatever. You know, because initially you get like this white background until this page loads and so on and so forth. So in order to avoid that, I'm just gonna copy some styling from again from a different project. So let's call this style. And right here, this is why I wrapped this into the loading div, because this loading div is going to be on top using this Z index. I'm gonna give it a background color to be darker. And then I'm giving all of these options to be 100% wide and height as the page. And then these are other options to make it fixed. So it's gonna look okay. And then I create a separate CSS format for the image. And in this case, I want to overlap the image over this background. In this case, it's gonna be inside this. You can imagine it as a box. This disk is inside this div box. So I said that the box should be 100% height and wide. And then I want this to be top and left 50%, which basically means that it's gonna be in the center of the page. This makes it responsive. So if I'm gonna refresh, you can see. So this means that if I resize my window, it's gonna always be in the center, which is really, really nice. Here, unfortunately, we can also do this inside the SVG, but I think it's redundant because it only applies if we're gonna give these options, and usually we do that mainly through JavaScript, but you can probably hack it through CSS as well. It's only going to apply inside the SVG, but not outside of it. So basically this SVG is imported, so everything that happens outside of it, it's a bit wanky. So it's better to do it this way. It's much easier as well. The lazy way. So we have done this, but this is obviously now set up here and it's not going away. A preloader should go away. Well, in order for that to happen, let's do something. First of all, I'm going to, well, let's comment this thing out first. Not like this. So right now nothing is loaded over here, right? And I want to disable it, so I can go in here and let's address the body. Basically everything that encapsulates the page. The browser is going to create the body for me, so I don't have to write it manually. So let's say for our body, let's give it a background. And we're going to reference an URL. And I think I'm gonna look for a page, for an image. Let me look here. Okay. Okay, let's look at, whoops. Yeah, I like this pig. Let's see if it's a JPEG. Okay. So I'm not sure this pig is correctly displayed. Let me put it like this. Okay, so let's go to this. How am I opening this? Oh, what happened? Okay, so we have this pig. Let's view the image. Please open image in new tab. But this shows like it's 3000. Why is it 800? Oh, this one. Okay. Yeah, so this one is much bigger. Now the reason why I want a bigger image is that in this case I'm going to copy this JPEG, this URL, and let's put it in here. Now what's gonna happen, obviously it's gonna be very zoomed out because it's a pretty chunky image, you see? Right now it's like this, but if I zoom in, it's going to show from here, from this corner. Now, in order for us to solve this problem, let's first of all, let's see, I'm going to not repeat it, because right now it's trying to repeat over and over across the whole image, but let's just say no repeat. And I'm going to tell it I want it in the center and center. This refers to the X and Y axis. And then I want it to be fixed so it doesn't go away. And then we're gonna give a background size. And let's tell it to look like a cover. So now, if I'm gonna refresh, bam, see? Our beautiful pig here is chillaxing in the background. And it's also responsive because if I resize the window, it's gonna try to stay, well, it's gonna format the picture in a way that it looks, it encapsulates the image and it doesn't leave any white edges, white borders. And this is really nice. What else can we do? Well, right now if I refresh, nothing happens. If I do like a Control F5, which is a forced refresh, you can see that before the image loads, we have this white background. So this is where our preloader comes in. So if I'm going to remove this comment and refresh it, now again, our preloader is not going away. And this is because we need to do something interesting with this preloader. We have to tell it that when the page has done loading, it should go away. So in order to do that, we are going to use a library called jQuery. And this is basically a short-handed written JavaScript. So I'm going to take this minified thing and I'm going to import this script. And as I told you guys, always write your scripts at the bottom of the page because that's where you want to load them. I'm gonna simplify this because it has a lot of code and we don't want it. So let's do it like so. And now, after this imported line of code of JavaScript, we'll want to create our own script event. So we're going to encapsulate a script in here. Funny enough, you can write a script without a closing tag and it would still work. but whatever, we have to write it nice. Okay, so in this case, we're going to say $, and we're telling the document when the document is ready. Actually, script language. Let's also type this JavaScript. You don't have to, but it's better to have it completed, and this is gonna be JavaScript. And as you can see now, it kind of recognizes what I'm doing in here. So let's say when the document is ready, we're gonna give it a function, and we're going to enclose this function like so, and say that we want to load our loading div. In this case, it's gonna be like this. So I'm referencing loading from here to here. And we want it to fade out. Actually, it's like this. And we're gonna do it slow. We can do it fast, it doesn't matter. You can even let it empty, but whatever, I like slow. So let's see if this worked. So now if I refresh, bam. See? Although there is still a bit of a transition of white there, but that's because the document is only loading one background image, so it doesn't have a lot to load. But usually when you have like lots of text and so on, it will load that in the background, and when that has finished, then it will make this disappear. Now that's nice. That's really nice. But what if we want to keep our SVG still rolling in the center after the background has disappeared? Now, there are many ways to do this, but we're gonna do something hacky. We are going to create a double background. So how do we create a double background? We actually create another URL here, and in this case I'm going to call our record loader SVG, don't repeat. We're also we're also going to keep it in the center and center. We're also going to call it fixed, and this cover applies to the second part of the background. So in this case, I'm going to just say 200 pixels. It's gonna be the size. So now, if I refresh, you see, we have a background that has an animated thing loaded in there. Basically, you can make backgrounds with MP4s or video files or whatever you want. But in this case, you can also do an SVG that's animated by itself. Or you can do CSS animated divs. You can do like, whoa, you have no limits to this. You have so many options. And it's really, really awesome. So with just a few lines of code, we have done quite a lot here. So just a small recap. Basically, we have created, well, what is my, okay, so I have created these two base layers or global layers. And then I have told for the center to be encapsulated in this spin class. And this spin class does all of these things with the animation. And then it's calling this rotating animation keyframe. And then this keyframe, I set it on a different line here. and it's doing this keyframe at 0% it's 0 degrees, at 100% it's gonna reach 360 degrees. Perfect. Now, let me show you what happens if I save this, close it, and now if I reopen it, the text is gonna be jumbled up. Like we can clearly see it here automatically, and if I open this, you see, I don't know, it looks weird, but I'm just gonna close it without saving, but it still works. If I refresh it, you can still see it still works, and here as well. So it's fantastic. It's bombastic. And then I have created this simple HTML file, and I have told it do this thing in the body where we have two background images. Well, one is the SVG, one is the imported image of this pig. And I have told it to look a bit more responsive. Obviously, if we want to test if it's responsive or not, we can always drag in and out, as you can see. And there is a little bit of resizing. This is because of how the browser is resizing the edges of its window. And then here this relates to the preloader part, which is this encapsulated div with the image, or this image encapsulated inside this div. And then I created this small JavaScript that just basically, well, it's a jQuery. It just basically says when the document is ready after finish loading all these elements inside of it, then the preloader, this div, should just fade away with the image inside. And voila, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. I hope you guys enjoyed this amazing thing. Maybe I might expand on this and we might create a full-fledged, I don't know, standalone page with effects and other SVG elements, maybe buttons. I don't know, I'm not sure yet. It's quite a lot of work to do, but maybe I'll just do it in small increments as I go and add here things here and there, you know. Yeah, you can actually animate a logo here as well. CSS is very powerful for animations. Now, clearly, like you can see, this animation goes like this. Woof, super easy, but there are far more advanced CSS animations than this because these keyframes can do quite a lot of funky things. Like, for example, it can go in different directions. You can also, let me see if I can find it. Animating a shorthand property. You have nice exercises. It's a really beautiful website, this one. It even has a small game, if I remember correctly, made with SVGs. What does this do? Yeah, it goes into a square. Oh, and then it goes back. But you can hide elements. You can. Oh, and it's changing the color as well. So you can see it's very versatile. And here you can specify what to do at different parts of the, like at 25%, at 50%, 75%, change direction, change color. And it's not a lot of text to write. It's quite simplistic. And this one also has like the extra part that I didn't write with the head, HTML and body and blah, blah, blah. So it's actually quite little, a few lines of text, yeah. And then you can do more advanced CSS animations, tricks. This is a cool website to learn about these tricks. As you can see, you can change the format. Although this one is doing it, I suppose, with the canvas. with the stretching element. So it's not using an SVG, but you can apply it to an SVG element as well. Although this is much more complex. But you can do it to divs, to simple divs. Let's look at the HTML. You see, it's a simple div. Then you have the SCSS. It's a different way to type CSS, but basically this compiles it to normal CSS afterwards. So don't be scared of SCSS. And yeah, this works on many things. As you can see, Firefox, Internet Explorer 10, Safari, and even on tablets and mobiles. So it's cool. You don't have to, because it's all mathematical. It's just vectors moving left and right and up and down and so on and so forth. Awesome possum. Okay, I'm gonna stop the video here. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Bye.